Hi guys, I'm Jenn Johns. Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be doing a cake based off of one of my all-time favorite series of books and movies, and of course I am talking about Harry Potter. I am so excited for the Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them movie. I've watched the trailer like a bazillion times and all the different versions of them, and I even ordered Newt's wand from a store on Etsy. But unfortunately for me, I haven't had any luck at all yet with the magic. So we're going to be making a Newt suitcase cake, and it's got the creatures coming out of the suitcase here. Let's just get started on the tutorial. To make our cake, we're going to be using two 9x13 pre-baked cakes. You can use your favorite recipe or try one of my cake flavors. Now I need a full one here, and I also have a half of a 9x13 here. We're going to use them for the top and the bottom. We need some homemade chocolate buttercream, link in the description box. I have 3 different colors of brown fondant, a dark, a medium, and a light. I have some brown color dust, and I have some gold luster dust. Our first step is to cover both of our cakes completely in chocolate buttercream. So you want to dig that out of here. I'm using an offset spatula, a larger one, just to make this flat, and I'm going to pop them both into the fridge once I've got them both completely covered. To cover the cake in fondant, what I did was I rolled out a piece that is going to cover just the top, and then I have it on a piece of parchment paper because we're going to move it around later. So you want to make sure that your cake is frozen to your board, and you just do that by popping it into the freezer for a brief period of time. And then I'm just going to hope and flip it over and get nice and chocolatey, and just line it up to make sure that you've got the fondant all over the sides. And then using a cutter, just trim to match the sides of the cake. With the cake still upside down, what I did was I cut out the fondant strips to match the size of the edges of this top cake. So I'm just going to pick up my stripe here and then just press it into place. And it's going to line up at the bottom with the top piece that we had. Use a fondant smoother to smooth that out. And then you can use a sharp knife to trim the edges once you've got all of the edges covered with the fondant. So the edges are finished. This is the bottom part of the cake. And what I'm going to do now is I need to flip it over. So I'm going to put some buttercream here onto my cake board. I'm just going to use this as glue, which is going to glue my cake to the cake board. So I'm just spreading that out. And then I'm going to take a large cake board. I'm just placing it right directly on top of the cake. And then I'm going to just reach on underneath and over top here. I'm squeezing it tight together, and I'm going to flip it over. And I had a cake board underneath there too for support. And so I'm just going to take that off, and then I can take off my layers of parchment, and I'm good to go. With the cake the right way up now, what I'm going to do is take some water on the end of a paintbrush, and I'm just going to place a small line of water. The water acts as an adhesive. It's going to help the fondant stick to itself. I'm taking out a piece of this strip here. Now what I did was I cut out these strips from the dark brown fondant, and then I just did them about 1/2 inch thick. Now once you've got it lined up, make sure it's nice and smooth, and then take a knife blade and just slice that corner about almost at like a 45-degree angle and remove that piece. Now we're going to repeat on the long side here. Now when you're measuring your strips, you want to make sure that you cut a little bit extra length so that you can make that proper 45-degree angle cut a little bit better. So I'm just going to place that on top there and then lay out the rest of it. Now I'm going to come back with my knife and kind of just feel in there for that angle, and then you can even bend it over here and then just slice into there to match those 2 corners up. So I'm going to do it on the other side of the cake, and then that part will be finished. So we're going to finish off the bottom here by, I've cut out some round pieces here of the darker fondant, and I'm going to take my knife blade and just cut them roughly in half. We're going to put them on every single corner that we've got here. Taking the top of a number 5 tip, I'm just going to use it to press like little marks into here. This would be for the grommets that are on the leather suitcase. Lift that up here with the cake spatula, and then I'm going to flip it over and just put on a little dab of water on each of the corners because it's going to be bending around the corners here, and then just moving it towards the cake, and then just wrap it around there and press it on each side like that, and repeat that for all 4 corners. So we're working on the top of the cake now. So what I have is my strips have been cut out to about 1 inch in thickness here. And I've also got 1 of the circles cut out. You're going to need 4 of those for the corners. So I'm going to take some water and just brush that on the top here. So we're pretty much doing a very similar act as we did to the bottom one, except I'm also going to put like a little bit of a stripe down here, kind of getting over around that corner here, or around that edge. Just like that. So get that all covered in. And then you're going to pick up your strip and line it up there. You want to have half on the top and then half on the bottom approximately. And then just work it over there like that with your fingers, rubbing that on there. And then if you take a ruler, you can straighten up your edges too, just like that. Make that straightened up like that underneath. And then in the corners here, you're going to take a knife blade, cut that 45-degree angle, and then straight down like that for that one. And then we're going to repeat that right here on the edge. So I'm taking some more water, brush that on here, brush it all the way down. And again, you want to make sure that you've cut your pieces a little bit longer than they should be, like cut to size. And 1/4 of an inch or 1/8 of an inch should be plenty. Now take your longer strip, and we're going to line that up here again, halfway on the top, halfway on the side. And then we'll just pinch it down, running your fingers down there. And then what we're going to do is take the knife again, line that up, cut it to match it up. And if you don't match it up perfectly, it is no big deal, because now we're going to take the circle here and I'm going to punch in some of the grommets. So I'm just taking this, punching these in kind of around in here, filling those in, and then turn that upside down, and a little bit of water is going to be needed. And put a couple drops here, like that, and then press it into place here, covering the corner here. So what we're doing is we're just pressing it down there, and then just kind of press it on the top, press it on the 2 sides, press it on the bottom, and then I'm going to repeat that for the other 2 sides and the other 3 corners. So I've got the side of my cake here lined up with my ruler. I'm going to take my stitching tool, and then I'm just going to just emboss the cake here with the stitcher. And I'm just going lightly over top here, so I want to make sure I get my line in there. And then I'm going to take a number 5 tip, and I'm just going to make the grommet. So I'm just going to move it up a little bit, move my ruler line up there. And then I'm going to go about every 2 inches. So I'll start over here on the edge, and I'll keep moving forward, and I'm just pressing gently into the cake. Now we're going to work on the pieces of the lock. So what I have here is a rectangle cutter, and you'll need to do this twice for everything. That's going to be our base of the lock. Now we're also going to need a part of the lock on the top, so I'm using the bottom of a 1A tip to cut that out. Again, you'll have to do that twice. Now from this tip part, I'm just going to use the bottom of the tip and just trim out a little bit of a rounded part there. And I'm going to do that same thing on the other side of that tip there, or sorry, this round piece, and just kind of snip it off like that. And there we go. Now onto here, we're going to use some more of our fondant. So I'm just going to cut out a round piece here like that. And that is going to be our keyhole. So we're going to take that off. And then using the top of a number 10 tip, I'm going to press that near the top like that. And then I'm going to take the number 5 tip and press that near the bottom. And then using a knife or a sharp implement, I'm just going to cut that piece out from in between the 2 circles there. And using some water, I will attach this keyhole part to the rectangle that we've got here. So I'm going to move the rectangle around, and then I'll bring everything back over here. And I'm going to just clean off, before I put the glue on though, or the water on, I just want to clean off. So if you've got any excess fondant like that, you can just use fondant tools to clean out the fondant. It's quite easy to do. You can even use your fingers if it's something around the outside edge. Flat tools help too. So you can just kind of move that around and get those little finicky pieces kind of just pressed in. It's almost as if you're disguising them. So to the back, I'm going to put a small amount of water and just dab a little tiny bit there, like that. And then on the outer edge of the lock, I'm going to place this keyhole like that onto there. Now taking the number 5 tip, I'm going to mark my grommets on the edges here, going around like that, 4 here, and then over to the top thing here, I'm going to put 2 into there like that. Now the last piece I need to do is attaching the smaller, kind of like what's going to lock it, basically what's going to lock the lock. So I'm just going to use the rectangle to cut out a shape here. And probably I just want it to match up there. I want it to be almost close in size. So I'm going to take my tip here and I'm going to cut using the bottom again. And then do that again on, I'm going to cut it like that on the top here. And then flip that around. And then using a little bit of water, you can attach those 2 pieces together. Now we're going to work on the front of the suitcase and the handle. So I've got my dark brown fondant laid out, and I'm just using a small rectangle cutter now, cutting out 2 of those. You can remove the excess. And then using the number 5 tip again, I'm just going to put some grommet holes in here. And you can do that like that. Now I've also rolled out the dark fondant here into kind of like a long worm here. And then I'm just going to place these kind of the distance apart that I will have them on the cake. I'm going to I'm going to put the handle on the cake once we actually get to that part. But I want to kind of just shape it roughly so I've got the proper distance apart there. So I think about that. And then I'm going to use the corner and I'm going to cut the little log here on an angle, and just want to make sure I've got the other one here properly lined up. Okay, and then do the same thing on this side. Just turn your knife to an angle, and then we can smooth that out and smooth those corners, and anything that caught, just make sure you smooth that out. So that will sit like that once we get it onto the cake. So we're going to make the hand now. I've just got a piece of the fondant rolled out and I'm cutting out the fingers. This is the monster's hand that is desperately trying to get out of the suitcase. And so I'm just cutting off the edges here. You just want to make a rough outline here of a hand. Just kind of get all this stuff out of the way. Now I'm going to take my fingers and just work the edges here, and I want to round them up so it's more like a finger. So I've got one already done and I'm just going to switch to that one. Taking a small piece of the dark fondant, I'm just rolling it out. Now I'm just warming it up with my finger so it rolls a little bit easier. Now I'm going to press harder on one end and I'm trying to roll it to a point. Now I want to get the wider base to be the same diameter as the fingers, or really roughly close to the same, so they can match up like that. So I'm going to flatten the end here of this one, flatten that out like that, and then take a little dab of water so it can attach, and then press the finger and that claw together nice and tight. You're going to repeat that for the 3 other fingers, and then do it for a second hand, of course, and then leave it to dry completely. Now we're going to make the coating of paint for the brass features. So you can just take a small, like teeny tiny little dab of vodka there. You could also use clear extract instead. And I'm going to sprinkle my gold luster dust into there. And then I want a little tap of this brown color as well. I'm just kind of going to mix them in together. And you can play with it. You can add more of the dark, you can add more of the gold. And I can tell that it's a little bit too runny at that point. So I want to add some more of the luster dust. Actually, it's kind of coming together now. The alcohol evaporates off, and so there won't be, it just leaves the color behind, which is awesome. So there, we're going to paint that onto the cake. And what these larger pieces here, like what I'm going to do is just use like a long, straight, kind of like even coat to the top here. Now on every single grommet on the cake, That's right, every single one. You're going to take a fine paintbrush, and I'm dipping the fine paintbrush into the coloring here, and I'm going to go right directly on top of each of the grommets and just dab it so it fills in that little space that we cut out. So all you do is just dab each and every single little grommet on the cake. Once your pieces are dry, we can go ahead and put them onto the cake. So I've got one up here already on, and then I'm going to take just a little bit of water to get them to stick. You just need a little bit on the back of the pieces, and then you just want to put them over top. But I put little marks on there so I could know where to put them, and then just double check before everything dries to make sure that the items will fit like that, and that will be good. So I'm just going to let those dry first, and then I'm moving over to the lock. Turn that over too. And then you want to get some water onto the lock as well. Cover that up. Then I've got this one marked as well here, and just attach that in place, and that will stick there like that. And then repeat it on the other side. So I'm just adding a little bit more water here onto the back here, and then lining that up onto my marks and just pressing that in place and holding it there. You don't need very much water at all to help it stick there. And then for the last part, what I'm going to do now is take the handle and just roll it over there on the back. And now I'm just going to put a little bit of water here, and the handle's going to rest on the board so it doesn't, like, you don't have to defy gravity with the handle here. So you just want to hold it in place until those ends stick. So I've got the hands in place. I just put them on the cake like that. You just want to make sure that one's going down and one's facing upwards. And I'm just going to take the top of my cake now. If I can get it up here. And then I'm going to gently line it up on the back and then place it on top of the hands there. And you just want to make sure it's lined up nicely. And then I'm going to attach the top part of the lock. So I just want to line it up as best as I can up there. I'm going to go a little, probably about there. Take a little bit of the water and then attach that kind of hanging in the spot where it would be if it was actually closed. Hold that onto there. So once you've got the other lock on as well, the last thing we need to do is add some distressing to the suitcase. So I'm just using my brown coloring here, the brown dust, and I'm just getting on the end of the paintbrush. I don't want too much here, and I'm going to take it off and then just kind of like tap it onto the places where you want the distressing, and you can blend it in. You can even do like little gouges out of the cake as well. So there you go, everybody, how to make this Harry Potter cake. Now I finished off distressing the top with that additional dark powder. It really adds more of that antique-y look to it, so I hope you guys enjoyed it. Now, thanks so much for watching. What is your favorite Harry Potter movie or book? Leave the comment in the comment section, and let me know if you have any exciting cake ideas that you want me to do coming up next. Thanks so much for watching. Remember to subscribe to the channel, and I will see you guys all again next time.